My fence saga has come to an end today.
Wow.
The fence saga is over. So I had Lowe's didn't do it. This was I told you my buddy Tommy, Tommy Doyle.
Yes.
He hooked it up with a fence installer, and he came out and his friend. They came out yesterday. They dug the holes. They cemented the pipes in, and they came out today and they put the fence on. We're done.
How's it look?
We're done. It looks fantastic. There's a couple posts. So it's the back wall of my fence, back wall of my yard,
Okay.
and behind it is train tracks, like down in a valley. Like there's train tracks right there. So it's just like a real shitty like thing to look at. So that's why we wanted to put a new fence up. And the way we wanted it positioned, usually in a yard where you have a fence like outward facing, you have the inside of the fence and like the posts facing you, and the flush side of the fence is on the outside. But for this, it's like nobody's going to be looking at that nice side of the fence because it's a train track. It's train tracks in a cemetery. The people have been dead for a very long time. They're never going to see this nice fence we bought. So we wanted to turn it around and face it in, face it into our backyard. So we could see the nice like flush fence. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So anyway, the problem is that you have to secure it. The brackets go around the pipes, so the pipes are on the opposite side, and there's nowhere really to maneuver because there's another old fence back there that we didn't want to take down. So they had to so we lost like 2 feet of our yard because they had to leave like a walking space in between the old fence and the new fence, which is fine. That's what I figured was going to happen. And then there was some spots where they couldn't really dig down that far, so these metal posts are too big, and they stick up past the wooden fence in some parts. Again, not their fault, just like something they didn't have the equipment for. I'm going to have to like cut the posts down so you don't see them from the other side. It's not a huge deal. But other than that, it looks great. It's up. It's all I can ask for. We had 2 things on our list that we wanted to get done this year with our house. We wanted to put a new door on, a new storm door, and so I count that as 1, and we wanted to get the fence redone. All 3 of those things now are complete and done, and I am satisfied with. In a month or so, we'll power wash the fence and then stain it or paint it or whatever. But it's pressure treated wood, so I don't like feel the rush to have to do it right away because it won't rot. So
Yeah, especially with it being the spring. It's not like you're doing this in like November or December.
right. So I'm like completely happy with it. Of course, there's gonna be more stuff coming down the pipe. I mean, the guys that were like, our house severely needs to be painted as well because the people who did it last just painted the house to sell it. So they put new paint over like a million coats of old paint, and it's not sticking in a lot of places. It's just peeling off. And like even the guys today fixed the fence. They're like, your house needs to be painted. I'm like, thanks for telling me. And the worst part is I thought maybe these guys were like trying to like sell their services as painters. And I'm like, can you do that? And he goes, oh no, I don't paint like that. I don't paint stuff like that. Oh, thank you, but thanks for telling me that my house needs to be painted. And he also didn't tell me somebody that could paint. He was like, he wasn't like, I have a friend who can paint. No, he's just like, it looks really bad.
He's like, look, usually I don't say this, but it looks so bad. I have to mention.
I have to
that.
tell you something. So, anyway.
Just keep it to yourself, buddy.
Yeah, right.
But I'm happy to hear that. Homeowner stuff is just, it never ends, but I feel like there's no like easy, like just like relaxing way to go through getting something done in your home.
No, it's always something. Like even the fence,
Always.
like as much as like I'm, like when it comes to home renovation projects, I am 100% satisfied with the fence. But there are still things that I need to do to it to make it 100% like correct. And that's just like you can't. I've come to learn you can't expect 100%, even from like people who are professionals at what they do. It's crazy.
Right. It's insane. Like when you think of this stuff growing up, you're like, all right, I'm gonna hire this guy who this is all he does for his profession.
Right.
So I don't have to worry about it. Like obviously he's gonna be good at it. Nope. It's not always the case.
There's just something about the trade industry where everything there's so many variables that like, and there's so many people that oversell what they can do. I've seen it 1,000. You've seen it 1,000 times. I've seen it 1,000 times. Like imagine booking a flight with Southwest and the pilot coming over the thing and being like, all right, well, we're up in the air. Well, I'm not promising I can land it. Then you like, you know what I mean? Like you can do everything, but you just can't land the plane. I don't know.
It is true. It's like the only like industry as a whole though.
Yeah.
I mean, not just fence people, it's everything. Like we went through it with our fence guy. We went through it with like the concrete people. I mean, everything we've tried to get done, there's always like some type of hiccup.
And then like the two of us being semi nice and normal people, I would say more nice than normal, but they like you don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to be an asshole to these people. You know what I mean? Like I can tell when people are genuinely just doing the best they can and not meaning to like screw up something or whatever.
Yeah, they're not trying to. I never got the sense that like they were trying to stick it to me. Like,
Right.
oh, this guy's a pushover. It's just this is how they operate.
Right. So
Like this is just how they live their daily lives, which is mind blowing.
yeah, it is mind blowing. But another thing that's mind blowing is that episode 116 of the Average Nobody's podcast, 116, and today is Tuesday. Shut up, Siri. Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. We're well over a year into pandemic. We're almost a year and we're almost at 13 months here. And I can remember when we started doing this again regularly last May. I can remember, I think, right around May.
Yeah, it was like like early or mid May. It was right when I opened the pool.
Right. Yes. And Adam joined us, of course, and went forward. He was with us. I can remember on one of the episodes that was on our YouTube channel being like, we're in a pandemic, and I think in a few weeks everything will be good. And here we are. And that's a broken record. Every podcast I listen to talks about how crazy it is. But I mean, the truth is nobody knew it was going to go this long. But here we are, battling through. So many new babies in our lives. From then until now, crazy amount of new babies.
It is. So when Holly had Lennon, we were there, and that was the week of March 18th. So the 18th was a Thursday, and they were expecting at least 1,000 babies that week.
Crazy.
At Women and Infants.
Crazy. It's just a good time.
At least.
It was a good time, I guess. Everybody just home. That's it.
Home making pandemic babies.
That's it. So what are they going to be called? So there's the baby boomer generation. What are the pandemic babies going to be called?
The masked wonders.
Yeah, right.
That's just like vigilantes.
You want to know what's funny? So not to go on a tangent here, but like masks, like so now they're recommending that everybody, or Dr. Fauci recommends that everybody wears 2 masks, right? Like if you like not making a mandate, but saying like if you want to better protect yourself, is 2 masks. And I was listening to this on the podcast, and this guy is talking about this new like 2 mask suggestion, and he made a funny point. He's like, it's Dr. Fauci sounds like if I got the job as like whatever Dr. Fauci does. When they ask me, how do we better protect ourselves? And I just looked around the room and I was like, wear 2 masks? I don't know. Like 1 mask works. Maybe if we put 2 on, maybe they'll work. That's so funny. But yeah, the mask, maybe it'll be the masked generation.
Yeah. I mean, it is funny though, because he's probably getting these questions like, we've been wearing masks. We've been doing good hygiene. Like, it's been a year. What can we do? And he's like, another mask?
Maybe we put on another mask.
Maybe, I don't know. Put a mask over our hands.
Oh, God. Yeah, maybe.
Everywhere. I mean,
maybe. Gloves.
It's just funny, too, because we see it every day on Twitter, on Facebook. Like, unfortunately, the, like, education and like that level, it seems to be rapidly declining about how people just understand things. So you have this guy who's like spent his whole life studying viruses and diseases, and he's trying to explain it to the masses who really, no matter what he says, they're going to jump down his throat.
Nah, yeah.
And now he has like all these new variants coming out, and he's like, there's no way I can explain it to these people.
And also the people that don't want to hear it, they're just not going to hear it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they've already discredited what he does, which is a crazy thing for us to say for how many years he's been in the medical field and did things that we have couldn't even comprehend. So, you know what I mean? Or like understands things we couldn't even begin to comprehend. So I just I always trust medical doctors. That's not a thing that goes on right now. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about Q Into the Storm.
Yeah, it's the death of expertise.
It truly is.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it truly.
Like, you're an expert in this? Why should I believe you?
It truly is because
I spent my whole life studying it. No, I'm going to believe this YouTube guy.
Right.
All right, well.
It's turned into instead of not agreeing with a fact, it's like, no, that's not that's not true.
That's fake.
Yeah, that's fake. That is fake. I don't agree with that. That is fake. Imagine that. I imagine that my bank calls me, Matt, you're in the red. You have no money. No. Listen.
No, I have plenty of money.
Listen, I know for a fact that there is at least $10,000 in that bank account. Please Yeah, I know it is. You're lying to me. Put the money back. You stole it from me.
Yeah.
I will not have this. You're impeding on my rights. Welcome to the Average Nobody's podcast number 116. Let's jump into this.
Let's go.
We're not doing a celebrity birthday trivia per se, but we are going to talk about a man whose birthday is today that we both are fond of.
Yes. He's a wonderful man. It is Mr. Paul Rudd. It's his birthday today. And actually, you don't know how old he is, right?
I don't.
So how old do you think he is? Because
Okay.
Paul Rudd is like this like ageless wonder.
Yeah.
So I feel like he could be anywhere between like 40 and 75, and I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to say that Paul Rudd, going off of how old I think he was in Clueless to now, I'm going to say that Paul Rudd is 48 years old.
Very close. See, I thought you were going to go higher than how old he's 52.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if he broke 50 yet. That's remarkable. It's remarkable.
So Clueless was
Look this up.
26 years ago.
That's crazy. Wow.
So he was 26.
26 years ago.
And it's funny because he looks old for 26 in Clueless, right?
Right.
But now he looks young for 52, and he looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Steve Martin effect. Like Steve Martin looked like old when he was 40, but now he looks young for 70.
I can't believe it. I'm going through his thing right now. That is bananas. He was in so much, but
Pretty consistently, too.
Clueless. 1995. See, now I anticipated Clueless coming out in like 99. I didn't realize it was 95. Wow.
It's a big Alicia Silverstone time period right there.
Right. Mid-90s.
When she had Hollywood by the throat. Not anymore.
Not anymore. No, definitely not anymore.
It's over, baby.
What has she been doing? She's been...
I don't think anything, right?
She's Queen Marlena in Masters of the Universe, the Kevin Smith TV show, the animated show.
Oh.
And other than
good for
that,
her.
the Babysitter's Club, Eat Shit Kenny Daniels. It's a TV series apparently. She's in that.
And her character's name's Katy Perry. That's interesting.
She was a Valley Girl, but she was uncredited in the show called Valley Girl. Oh no, in a show called Valley Girl, or a movie. She was older Julie, but she was uncredited. It's not going well.
No.
So Paul Rudd. I think that Paul Rudd had a recent renaissance, don't you think?
Yeah, he definitely did. Because I feel like he stayed relevant just because of how likable he was.
Yeah.
But I feel like he wasn't really starring in anything.
No.
Because I Love You Man is like what automatically comes to mind for me when I think of him like starring in something.
Yeah.
Like he was in 40-year-old. No, he was in Knocked Up, but like not a starring role.
I'm trying to.
Same with This Is 40. And like I feel like any of the movies he had like a big role in, like Our Idiot Brother, that never really went mainstream.
Well, I think that for me, the first time I remember him coming back into like from Clueless was I think either Anchorman or it was 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yes.
40-Year-Old Virgin might have been the one, but I also think that Anchorman.
So Anchorman came out first,
the
year before.
Okay, so I can remember not really knowing Paul Rudd and Anchorman, but I just remember for some reason 40-Year-Old Virgin. I remember that Paul Rudd was in 40-Year-Old Virgin, and he had that like one of the funniest parts that I thought from his lines in that movie was when he's talking about Michael McDonald.
Yeah,
he's talking to Jane Lynch, and he's like, if I listen to Yamo Be There one more time, I'm gonna Yamo blow my brains all over this store. Great.
Yeah,
movie.
he was one of the employees, right? He's like one of Steve Carell's coworkers.
Yes, correct. Right.
Yes.
Seth Rogen, him, Steve Carell, and who else was?
What the heck's that guy's name? He's in the show A Million Little Things right now. I don't know the actor's name. He's the bald guy.
Catherine Kinnear. Oh, Keener, not Greg Kinnear's
Yep.
sister.
Nope. What the heck is his name?
Malco, Romany Malco.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's him. Right. So yeah, I think it was that. So it was like 2004, 2005 was maybe his like, back into the. So from the, because I'm trying to look at between 95 and 2004, I don't recognize any. So Wet Hot American Summer is the only other thing that I recognize.
And then he was on Friends. Like he was on for the last couple seasons, which that probably helped like keep his name out there because Friends was like so massively popular because he played Phoebe's boyfriend, eventual husband.
Right. Yes.
So I'm sure that didn't hurt things. And then right when Friends ended, Anchorman comes out in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Then 40-Year-Old Virgin comes out in 2005. And then he was in Knocked Up in 2007. He had a pretty big role in Knocked Up, playing the brother-in-law. The brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And
of course, that got a spin-off with a movie that's severely underrated. This is 40.
I really like This Is 40. I thought it was good.
Love that movie. I love that whole cast. It's Judd Apatow's kids and
Leslie Mann, his wife.
Leslie Mann, his wife, and of course Paul Rudd.
He did have a very funny role in Forgetting Sarah Marshall too.
Yeah.
The surfing instructor.
Yes, very, very, very funny.
So I told Justine about our plan, which I guess we could probably tease for this week for the next episode.
Okay.
For the topic.
Oh yes, yeah. Let's tease it.
So I saw online Barstool Sports did it, and it was basically you pick 5 movie characters who you want to be, meaning you would like take over their lives. So you don't necessarily want to just pick like a popular character because. Like one of the guys in Barstool picked Vito Corleone. I would not want to be Vito Corleone. That's a terrible life from The Godfather.
Yes.
Like you just like one, you almost get assassinated. They're trying to murder your family.
Who picked Vito Corleone? Or you're just saying?
No, I think Jeff Lowe maybe.
Really?
Is that? Yeah.
Oh no way.
He picked Vito, and he picked like Happy Gilmore, who I'm like, he's kind of like a mentally challenged. I
mean, I guess he's a good golfer, but he's kind of an imbecile. You're right. I wouldn't want to be any mob boss. I wouldn't be all of my favorite movies. I would not want to be in any of them. Interstellar, fuck no, absolutely not. And I wouldn't want to be in Casino. I wouldn't want to be in Goodfellas. I wouldn't want to be in any of those movies.
No, they all die.
Yeah, I don't want to be in any.
Well, they all end up in jail.
Or maybe I do. Maybe I do want to be. Oh God, what is his name? The old comedian, the one that was in Dirty Work, and he's in Casino. Yeah, maybe I'll be Don Rickles in Casino. That's as far as I'll go.
But then, like, he spends his whole life at the casino. Like, it's not really much of a life.
Yeah, it's true.
But I had mentioned it to Justine, and one of her, like, first, like, thoughts of who she would want to be was Paul Rudd's character from Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He just, like, live in Hawaii or live on the island all day. Like,
I don't have a watch. What is that? I don't have a watch. It's like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, you don't, like, care what time it is. It's like, oh, no, I just use my phone.
Just check my phone. Yeah.
Great movie. Another underrated movie he's in a movie that I really like, Dinner for Schmucks.
Yes.
Which is right around the time. When did Steve Carell exit The Office?
2010? So he left yes.
So it was the same year. So Dinner for Schmucks came out in 2010, so that was like his like first movie, or maybe like right around the time when he was leaving. Really liked that movie. Very funny.
Another Role Models too, with him and Sean William Scott.
Yes, that's a great movie. That was a little bit earlier than that, right? Yeah, 2008
Yep.
Role Models. That was a great one too, because that was like a few years after he did Knocked Up, or 1 year after he did Knocked Up. He has his own, like, he's starring in a movie. And Sean William Scott starred in that movie, and really that might have been the end of Sean William Scott's career. Not the end of it. Like, I'm sure he's still doing things. I'm sure he made a shitload of money from the American Pie movies. But, you know what I mean? Like, he's not... when was the last thing he was in?
I'm surprised, too, because I thought he nailed that role in Role Models.
He did really... Yeah, he really got... I don't know why he hasn't been hired in more stuff. Like, he's in nothing.
Yeah.
Like, he seems like a great character you could plug into a Marvel movie. Like, who would he be? Like, he could have played a Star-Lord character, like a Chris Pratt character.
100%. Just kind of like that, like, he's a bad boy, but like he's got like an edge to him.
Yeah.
But he's very redeemable. Like he played that really well.
It's actually too bad because I really like him and stuff. Like I think he's
Yeah.
funny.
I mean, I thought he's great in Goon. Like
Yes.
to play that like redeemable, like tough guy.
Yeah. Oh, they did a sequel of that recently too, didn't they?
They did. I was pretty good. I mean, the original was way better, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Those-
he
a
really
good movie.
hasn't been in anything.
Yeah. That was also McLovin's like next movie after Superbad, right? That actor,
Role
I forget
models?
his name. Yeah, I think so, right?
Yes. Yeah, Christopher Mintz-Plasse.
Yeah. And then what else we got here? I'm going a little bit higher.
I Love You Man was really
Yeah.
good too with
I Love
Jason
You Man.
Segel.
I Love You Man is great. Yeah. That's a great one with Jason Segel and
I'll see you then, or I will see you another time. It's just so awkward.
Dinner for Schmucks, Our Idiot Brother, which I've never seen.
It was okay. It was more of like a sentimental comedy,
Yeah.
and it was good. But like those are like such a dime a dozen
Yeah.
that like unless they really nail it, it's like I'll never watch it again. It was just like kind of a little too forgettable for me.
Yeah.
And then I mean Ant-Man, that's obviously huge to get cast in that Marvel role too.
Yep. And I think like I'm sure he's like right now. So yeah, he was in the Wet Hot American Summer TV series, the Netflix show. But yeah, I mean he's as big as it gets right now as far as the being in the MCU is pretty much the like you're huge around the world. Like he's massive right now.
Yeah, he's known everywhere. And then he was very good in Parks and Rec too. As Bobby Newport.
Yeah. Bobby Newport has never had a real job
in his life. I will say I'm like loving Peacock being able to like rewatch all we do is go back and forth between The Office and Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
And it's just all hits. There's like even like the episodes that aren't like standouts, there's 2 or 3 scenes at least in each episode that are just like laugh out loud. It's amazing. I can't get enough.
And then his three things right now that are in post production or completed: Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is the new Ghostbusters movie coming out this year, supposedly. We'll see. The What If Disney Plus show, which is like it's like the Marvel universe, but if certain things didn't happen the way they happened in the movies, it's going to be animated, so he's voicing his character from the movies. And then
cool.
the next Ant-Man and the Wasp movie called Quantumania, which is 2022. So that's him and Kate Austin.
So I've never seen Ant-Man.
I think you would really like it. You watched all the Avengers movies, right?
No.
So you're not. Okay. I mean, the Ant-Man movies are very easy to watch on their own. You could definitely watch them on their own. You have to have, for the second one, Ant-Man and the Wasp, you have to kind of have some context from Endgame, from Infinity War and Endgame, but you can kind of do without it if you wanted to. But they're very good, and I think that his character is very different than any of the. I mean, I guess he aligns more with Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's a young kid, and Ant-Man, Scott Lang is like a thief. He's he's not a bad guy. He's like kind of like an anti-hero sort of. But like he's like a good guy, and he has a daughter that he like does all his, he's trying to like stay in her life, and he's divorced, and his ex-wife's new boyfriend is Bobby Cannavale.
Ooh.
Who is just
love Bobby Cannavale.
Absolutely delightful as just like a side role. He's not what you think he would be. He loves Scott. Like every time he sees him, he goes up and gives him a hug, and like Paul Rudd wants something to do with him, But he's nice, so he's not like he's like. But Bobby Cannavale loves him. It's great.
Bobby Cannavale. He has such a wide range. He can play so many different things.
He really does. I think his not to go off on a tangent, but Bobby Cannavale was amazing in Boardwalk Empire as this lunatic. He's tremendous in Ant-Man, the Ant-Man movies, and he also was like to stretch his reach in another direction. He was amazing in Chef. He was so good in Chef, and he was like such a believable, kitchen worker. It was great.
Yeah, I have to watch that movie again.
Chef
I love
is
Chef.
Such an amazing movie. Such an amazing movie.
And
yeah.
he was a good villain in Jumanji too.
Oh yeah, right. Yes. I like, but Bobby Cannavale's great. He's great.
Yeah, love him.
So Paul Rudd, happy 52nd birthday. You don't look a day over 27.
No, he looks exactly like he did in Clueless. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I can't wait to watch more of your stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice little thing until we get back to trivia next week. Happy birthday, Paul Rudd.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Was there anybody else that stood out on the list of birthdays this week?
Michael Rooker.
Okay.
Yep, from Guardians of the Galaxy and Walking Dead.
Yep.
Who else was there? Candace Cameron Bure from Full House. One of the sisters from Full House.
Yeah. Stephanie, right?
Stephanie. Actually, so I did have a funny celebrity birthday that has to do with Lennon.
Okay.
So I won't go too deep into it, but so Holly went into labor on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, like early in the morning. So we're like, I have no idea like how labor works. I'm like, oh, so she's gonna have the baby today. Didn't work that way. She was born the next day.
She had to wait for the Snyder cut.
Exactly. So on the lead up, I was like looking at celebrity birthdays every day. I'm like, oh, who's like my kid gonna share a birthday with? So March 17th comes and I'm going through the list. Like we're at the hospital, we're like waiting. I'm like, oh, I'll look up, I'll see who it is. And none other than John Wayne Gacy is born on March 17th.
I was gonna say, was it like Charlie Manson? Like,
yeah. And I'm like, oh no, this is gonna ruin everything. Like and of course the face they use is the one where he's dressed up as the birthday clown.
Yeah,
and
horrifying.
I'm like, oh God, please no. But on March 18th, Lennon shares a birthday with Queen Latifah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, I can't really ask for anything better than that.
Oh man, I'm looking at this John Wayne Gacy picture of him in the clown suit. It's fucking horrifying.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I was like, man,
is he dead?
I don't think so. So there's actually a documentary series on him on Peacock.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. Well, okay, maybe cool.
He died in 94.
Good. Of like lethal injection or? Yeah. Yep. Lethal injection.
Okay.
Good. I mean, you really shouldn't spend any money on keeping him in prison.
No. That's probably not doing anything.
So he only did like one interview before he died. So Peacock did this documentary series with like the detectives who like investigated the case, his like surviving family members, and they splice it with footage from that interview.
Yeah.
So I really want to check it out because he only gave one interview like in the whole time. But I've read like reviews on it and they said he's just like it's like bone chilling because he's so matter of fact about everything.
Oh shit! Devil in Disguise. That's the name of it.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Man. Okay.
So it's like a 5-part documentary series about it. But I guess like they interview him and they'll just ask like, oh, we found how many bodies are buried under your house. He's like, oh, I think in the crawl space there was 28 or 29.
29, my God.
Well, like imagine just saying it like that. Like, yeah, I think I have 29 bodies buried in the crawl space. But I didn't know he was this like very successful contractor. Like he owned his own construction, painting, like electrician. He formed this like mini conglomerate, and he had like a bunch of people working for him. And he was a super successful businessman and also a serial murderer.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, I mean, good for him, I guess.
Great. Yeah. Maybe he was the one contractor who could do things 100%.
I think he kind of ruined it for everyone.
I know, really. I think that was it.
Now people don't trust you anymore. It's like, wait, have you killed anyone?
How many people do you have in your crawl space? What are you talking about? I'm just giving you a quote for your fence, sir. Please leave me alone.
Please, I'm just a normal guy.
All right, Ryan, let's get into it. What we've been watching. So we'll do next week. Sorry, to get off it. Do we explain what we're doing next week?
I think I briefly explained it, and then I went off on a tangent like I normally do. So you do it.
So we're gonna, each of us, meaning Ryan, Adam, and myself, we're each gonna pick 5 movie characters that we wish we could be. That means be in their world, be in their, like what they do day in and day out, what they can do. That's what we're picking. We're drafting. We're doing it in snake style. So we're not going to tell each other ahead of time who picked what. We're just going to go right through it. If Adam goes first, it'll go Adam, Matt, Ryan, and then Ryan will pick again, and it'll go back the other way. And that's what we're going to do. If anybody out there that's listening wants to submit your 5 or 3 or whatever, however many you have, to us at Twitter, at Average Nobodies on Twitter, hit us up, or mine as well, Matt from RI. Just somehow get it to us, and we'll talk about that next week on the podcast. So Justine, if you're listening, come up with your 5 and give them to us. Or if you want to come on and talk about it too, you can do that.
Yeah, she had a couple. She had a couple good ones. I won't give them away.
Okay, that should be fun, though. I'm excited about that. I have my 5 already picked out, and I'm sure that they'll change over the week because I had like 10, and I had to like slowly wheel. Also, because there's some that's not fun just to pick that person because you're like, that's just way too good. So I have a couple of those that are way too good, and then, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then otherwise, I have some ones that are interesting picks. So let's, Ryan, talk about what you've been watching. Because I've only watched 2 things in the last week.
Okay, so maybe I'll do the 2 things that you haven't seen, and then we can kind of talk about the last 2.
Sounds good.
So I talked last episode about Yellowstone, the Kevin Costner Western, and we finished. We watched all 3 seasons.
Wow.
Since we've last spoken. Yeah. Like, have neglected our daughter, like not paying attention to it all, just watching. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
but the good thing about a baby sleeping, 18, 19 hours a day, you can watch a lot of TV. Yeah. So, but we watched all 3 seasons. So it's on Peacock TV. That's how I watch it. The network is Paramount. I don't know how to just watch Paramount. Like, I don't know if you can get that through basic cable. I know you can't get it through YouTube TV. But for anyone who's interested in the Peacock streaming service, which I would highly recommend, we watched it there, and it's so good. It's one of the best shows I've seen in general. Just like not recently, not just Westerns. It's so well written. It's so well acted. I can't recommend it enough. It's really, really good. And season 3 ends on like this enormous cliffhanger. So I need season 4 to get here soon. And I guess it finished filming in November of last year. And the first 3 seasons they released on Father's Day weekend in June. So they're assuming that's when they'll do season 4. But I think they do it episodically. So I don't think it's done like all at once.
Yeah.
But it's like, I cannot recommend. Do you have Peacock?
No, I don't. But I have to because now I can't watch WWE any other way.
Yeah, so that's kind of the reason I got it. So I was spending $9.99 a month on WWE Network. So they shifted pretty much almost their entire library to Peacock, and then you can watch like the live pay-per-views, including WrestleMania, which is coming up this weekend. Crazy enough, like, yeah, I feel like it's been like the least hyped WrestleMania ever.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's still because they're not doing crowds and stuff. But so for $9.99 a month, you can get the network. Like their whole library, you can watch the pay-per-views, and then you get all the Peacock stuff.
Is there anything they didn't bring over from the network to the Peacock network?
So they're doing it like in sections. So they don't have the entire library like they had before.
Yeah.
Everything should be there by SummerSlam in August.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what's there, but most of their documentaries, which I'll actually talk about next, are on there, like their original documentaries.
Yeah.
And a lot of the old pay-per-views are on there. And then, you can watch like the live pay-per-views on Sunday, it's cool. So you go on Peacock TV and it has, browse, movies, TV, and they have like your own section for WWE.
That's cool.
So you just go over it, and yeah, I can't recommend it enough. The Peacock TV streaming service, it's the same price. It's $10 a month.
That's crazy. That's a great deal.
It is, especially, you have Parks and Rec, you have The Office, like all those old shows like Cheers, like all the old NBC shows. Friends is on there, I think. And then they do have like some originals too. So they're doing original documentaries. I think they're doing original series. And then they have a pretty robust movie library too.
They must be paying WWE a good amount of money to have their thing on there, because I can't imagine, like, what a great base to build into your new streaming service. Yeah. Everybody that watches wrestling, you have them come over and they're paying Peacock now. You know what I mean? Like, they must get WWE must get a huge cut of that.
Yes, they have. I mean, because there's no other way to watch the network now. So right. I know that was like a huge thing with shareholders, where every quarter when they'd hold their earnings report, the first thing the shareholders would want to know from Vince is, how many new subscribers have you had?
Yeah.
So now that you can't in the United States, you can't access the network unless you have Peacock TV. They must have made a lot of money, which of course they did, because I'm sure that was Vince's end goal too. Like he saw these like individual streaming services that they were just gonna keep popping up.
Yeah.
Like it was never gonna end with Netflix and Hulu.
Right.
Like everyone was gonna do their own thing, and NBC has the inside track as far as how many people watch wrestling on the USA Network. So they knew probably how many people they were going to get. I mean, it was definitely a win-win for them.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, definitely watch Yellowstone. You'd love it. I know 100% you'd love it. And I actually wrote a blog post just kind of like hyping up the show.
Yeah.
And last episode, I was trying to remember what show we talked about in previous episodes where like the characters are fully formed from the first episode. And it reminds me a lot of Modern Family.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
So it's obviously plots are very different. But in Modern Family, I remember we talked about like you're seeing like Phil or Cam or Jay in the first scene and you're like, I know everything about this character. Like, I don't know how they did it, but Yellowstone's very similar. And it kind of like allows you to just focus on the show. So all the decisions they're making, everything for whatever reason already makes like a ton of sense.
Yeah.
But it's just so well written and it's gorgeous. So they film it in Montana, and it's just like a beautiful
place
show to watch. And then the acting's good, the writing's good. It's just really cool.
That's awesome. I'm going to keep that as one of my shows because I'm pretty confident that I'll enjoy the show and that I've gotten a lot of feedback that it's a very good show. So I'm going to keep that one in the back pocket and wait for a rainy day. Probably when they release or when the next season comes out, maybe I'll just do a binge and watch it all the way through.
Yeah, and it's not too much either. So the first season's 9 episodes.
Yeah, hour.
And so the first episode's an hour and a half.
Okay.
And then the rest of them are like 40 minutes.
Okay, I don't hate that.
No, and then the second season's 10 episodes, and the third season's 10 episodes. So it's not crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm gonna definitely hold on to it and watch it there. I moved a little bit farther in Lost, too.
Okay.
But I haven't finished yet. But
right.
that was one of those shows that I saved for a rainy day, and I'm so glad that I did. So I'm gonna do the same thing with Yellowstone.
Yeah, Lost is a very big investment.
Yes, for sure. My brain.
Yeah, so the other thing I watched before we get into the two that we share today, actually, so WWE does this documentary series called WWE Untold, and they focus on like matches or rivalries from the past, and if the people are still alive, like they'll have those two people or a group of people talk about the match or the rivalry. And they just released one yesterday of the Edge versus Mick Foley match from WrestleMania 22. Mm-hmm. The hardcore match when like Edge speared Mick Foley through like the flaming table. And it was probably like the most gruesome hardcore match in WrestleMania history. But it was really cool. They had Edge, Mick Foley, and Lita. So they interviewed all three of them separately, and they just talked about the match. Really, really well done. WWE has this great production staff, which we've always known.
Yeah. From
like the hype videos that they would do. But now that they're getting into documentaries, they're very close to like an HBO or anyone else or ESPN with the sports documentaries. So this one was really, really cool, especially if you're a wrestling fan. So they just kind of talked about like Edge and Mick Foley separately and then how their feud started. And they focused a lot on like Mick Foley never having a big WrestleMania moment.
Yeah.
Even though he was in matches, he never really got his time to shine. Really well done. You definitely like it because I know you're a big Mick Foley fan.
Big Mick Foley fan.
Yeah, really cool. And it's cool because they go behind the scenes. So they talk about how they were planning the matches, like how they felt during the match, all that type of stuff. So, I mean, I'm a sucker for that stuff because I love wrestling, but it was really well done.
Yeah.
And there's 4 seasons of it. So you can kind of go through each season. There was one with Randy Orton and The Undertaker about their feud, which was awesome. Made me like respect Randy Orton so much more. Just him talk, because when he fought The Undertaker, he was very early in his career, so talks about him like earning his stripes and trying to impress The Undertaker and all this stuff. So, but yeah, really, really well done. If you're any wrestling fans out there, I would highly recommend it. It just came out yesterday.
When I get Peacock, I'm gonna watch. That'll be the first thing I watch. I'm gonna watch that. I love that. I love those little documentaries they do. It's great.
Yeah, they're cool. It's like 40 minutes too, so it's not too long, but it's cool. I mean, I just love listening to Mick Foley talk like wrestling too. He's just such a personable guy.
Yeah, he's great. It's amazing he's so well spoken after so many these. But like, I mean, when you talk about head injuries, Mick Foley is the poster child for head injuries.
Well, I feel like every time I see him talking, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. In a sad way, I want him to be, okay forever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how is he not going to have some type of brain damage eventually?
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
But still, I mean, so far so good. He's still very well spoken. He looks insane, obviously, because of his beard and everything. And he's still got that huge gap, like he's missing his top 3 front teeth.
Yeah. Crazy.
Lunatic. All right, so we both watched these next 2 things, so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So let's do Q Into the Storm first, and then we'll talk about Godzilla vs Kong. So were they releasing 2 episodes at a time?
Yes.
Okay, so I wondered that because last week I watched 3 and 4, and then this week was 5 and 6, and that ended it. But after I watched 3, I was like, oh, episode 4 is here. Did I miss a week? And I thought that I did, and then obviously they just were releasing 2 at once. So this last 2 episodes, there was the episode 5. Remind me, episode 5 was like kind of like the ramp up to the lawsuit with Fred.
Yep, with Fred and Jim Watkins.
So Fred is the original creator of 8chan, and Ron and what's the dad's name?
Jim
Watkins. They own 8chan now. Fred wanted the name to be changed, but he also was talking all types of shit online, which apparently in the Philippines is a big no-no. To be talking shit about somebody, libel is taken very seriously there. So they had this really dramatic exit of the Philippines. The director and the guy was doing the whole documentary documented himself flying into the Philippines and rescuing Fred from the Philippines before the indictment came down.
It was kind of amazing.
And this was life or death. Fred, for those of you who don't know, Fred is this like he's disabled and he can't care for himself. He's in a wheelchair. I'm not sure. Did he say exactly what he has? He's cognitively
some type of
100%
muscle.
there.
Yeah, it's like some type of muscle disease.
Yeah,
like he's. I mean, his whole body. He's probably only like 2 feet tall.
You're right. Yeah. So like, yeah, it's like his muscles are atrophied and all that. But anyway, he can't care for himself. They were showing photos of what the prisons look like in the Philippines. Not a place I want to be.
No.
And that essentially he said this would be a death sentence for him. So he needed to escape the Philippines and go to America. So he came to LA, left his wife, he left his poor dogs who were always sitting in his lap, in his chair.
Yeah.
And
this was all happening last February, so coronavirus was happening.
Right.
At the same time, and like flights were being booked up or canceled, and travel was getting shut down. And they just barely got out of the Philippines and got to California before, which is also kind of crazy because like, what was it? Just because it was like a libel case? Like, what if he was a murderer?
I think maybe the murder would have moved a little quicker, but yeah, I think it was just because of the libel case, which is crazy. Yeah. I mean, that free speech is not free in other people. People want to complain about how they are having their freedoms infringed upon. Listen, he wasn't even really saying that bad shit. He was basically calling. He
called him senile.
Senile, calling a dude senile. Imagine if that was a prisonable offense. 99.9% of Twitter would be in prison right now.
Yeah.
Like if you're calling someone senile, there's way worse shit flying around on Twitter every day. That is crazy. Jail, straight to jail. And then they're in the airport and they're getting ready to leave and he doesn't have the proper identification. And so he has to like call his lawyer to have someone bring the ID to him in Manila traffic, he was saying, which is crazy. And I think they had just made it out of there on the last flight out.
Yeah.
Crazy. But anyway, so that episode was wild. And then the last episode, which I thought was the most compelling of all of them. I don't know how you felt about it.
100%.
Which was essentially they documented the insurrection. The Capitol.
Yeah, he was there.
The Capitol riots. Yes. He was there.
That's insane.
He was there, and so was Jim, which is crazy to me. Jim, the guy who now owns 8kun, which was 8chan, this crazy guy who the documentary was really like revolved around, he was there.
So can you like I kind of know, but could you explain a little bit of like what 8chan and 8kun are? Is it like a Reddit type website?
Yes, but
Okay.
so they come from websites in Japan that were called image boards. And image boards essentially were like Internet 1.0 websites where people could post things and, like forums and people could talk about things. It eventually developed into Reddit is like the very refined version of these websites where it's easily usable, but in some places you can see where it's plain text. There's no like special fonts. There's no design. It's very, very plain. These websites still, if you go on them, 4chan and 8chan, they are 8kun now. They look like they're straight out of 95. Like websites from 1995 to 2000. Like plain text, hard to get around unless you know what you're doing, hard to understand what you're reading. They are just like these, they are, as you saw on the website, a lot of them are like quote unquote regulated, but they're really not. Like they're very loose. They want people to like, this is like where this like the bad shit of the internet like can originate and live and be shared and then not take down immediately. It's not Facebook, you know what I mean? Like it's not somewhere, even though Facebook is kind of shit, but it's not Facebook.
So is Ron like in charge of like moderating what goes up?
Yes. So Jim Watkins owns the website, and he is kind of like, from what I understand from watching this documentary, he is just kind of like the money behind it. He's not really the brains behind it. He just kind of is he trades in speculation on websites, so he will buy website domains and sell them and use them. But his son Ron is really the guy who ran it. His username was Code Monkey, and he was the admin for 8chan. And 8chan developed from 4chan, but people thought that 4chan you weren't able to be as, I believe they weren't like you couldn't, like 8chan, like 4chan was cracking down on them doing some like fucking horrible shit. So they're like, we'll just create something new and call it 8chan, and then it'll be new. And I think when Fred started 8chan, he originally wanted it to be like a different place than it turned out to be. Like he wanted it to be a better place. And then when he sold it to Jim and Ron started running it, it kind of went south. And that's where this whole documentary comes from. That's where QAnon ended up being, and drove their website traffic up, thousands and thousands of percent.
Well, because they were like the top 1,000 websites in the world, right? Traffic wise,
because
which is crazy,
right? Because that is where like all of the QAnon believers and all people that were like they called themselves QTubers, people that are on YouTube talking about QAnon, where QAnon originated his messages was 8chan, and it was a few different boards. I believe did he start on 4chan and then switched over?
Yeah. Well, so he started on 4chan, and then it was like in episode 2 or 3, and they talked about where he was compromised. His like there was something with his URL or something had happened, and then he reappeared on 8chan, and that started driving their traffic, but the messages were different from when he was posting originally.
Yeah, so they thought that there was a guy that and I forget if it was a switch from 4chan to 8chan or if it was a certain message board on 8chan and then he moved to another message board on 8chan, because there was that guy that was he was an Australian, right? He was an Australian guy.
The bald guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was originally his message board. So it was his like page that he was posting on, and his like they have these unique little characters that are generated on the website, so you know that it's that person posting. You know it's Q that's posting, the person Q.
Right, and that had changed, right?
It had been compromised, and so he moved to another board on 8chan, and that is when they think that it was a different person taking over as Q, because he posted differently, he posted different times, his verbiage was different, he like the words sounded different. Some people claim that it was a different Q at that time. Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that's the thing about free speech, though. You want to have these websites that give you unfiltered free speech, but where do you ever draw a line? I mean, because the guy Fred was saying, he's like, I, wanted to start 8chan because, if you post on Twitter or Facebook and say the wrong thing, your account will get disabled. So it's not real, really free speech.
Yeah.
But then it starts being this this website where people are posting and kind of like planning things where you're going and you're being a mass shooter and people are egging you on, and now you're murdering people because of what you said and what you did on this website.
It's
so
yeah. Yeah. It's so tough.
Okay. I don't know.
It's tough because I don't think that there's the more and more people talk about free speech and then in the internet and where the Venn diagram, kind of, crosses. It's so different than normal. Like I can go around and knock on people's door and talk to people face to face, but I am not going to find like I could start a club, a model trains club, say. I've been watching a lot of model trains video on YouTube.
I was going to say, it didn't seem random that you put it like that.
So I can start a model trains club and I can go knocking door to door or stand in a park with a megaphone and talk about my model trains. Everybody should join my model trains club. Who's with me? I like these trains and not these trains. we should go on a shooting rampage with these trains. But there probably won't be a lot of people within earshot. Maybe there's a few. But with the internet, it's so easily you can catch your message can catch fire with exactly the same type of people as you. And that could be a very good thing in the cases of me looking up model train videos. And that could also be a very bad thing where we have people that want to go on shooting rampages and they can easily find people that that sympathize with their message, which is crazy. So it can't be people cannot be ignorant and go out there and be like, you're infringing upon my rights. But come on, man, like look at what's happening. It has to be a case by case basis. And I'm not saying some people should be able to speak and some people shouldn't be able to speak. But, when this guy posts, like he's going to go shoot up the Christchurch shooting, when he posts that he's going to go do it and all that, and you have people like support, like that stuff shouldn't be, I mean, it just, sure, it's free speech, but come on, like what like what is the good that's coming out of that? Not that there needs to be good that comes out of a message, but like.
But yeah, it's like it's free speech just for the sake of like spreading hate and spreading.
Yeah,
it's
a difficult thing. It's like you can't. I don't know. It's just like and also like when you're trying to gather people to your cause to do things like that should be like that shouldn't be allowed. Like that shouldn't be allowed. So it's tough. And so they ran on a platform of this is free speech, and then even Jim in some of the interviews he had with and I forget, do you know the name of the director, the kid who did all this? He did he really did a really good job.
He did. Colin Holback.
When he talks to him about it, he talks to him about free speech and the way his website works. And basically he was, they tiptoed around the subject, Ron, as well, about, if you start here and then it gets taken to this extent, and then before you know it, 8chan is shut down. And of course they take it to that extent because they want to protect the people that are making their website so popular. Right. I mean,
right.
That's at the end of the day. And then, of course, we find out at the end of the day, we find out who Q is, who we thought was, what's his name? Bannon. We for sure thought it was Bannon in one of the episodes. I was convinced. But we do find out who Q is.
Yeah. And it's Ron Watkins, which is wild. The most wild thing, even more that he's Q, is how much like Trump, who was the president of the United States at the time, was like listening to this random guy.
Right. And
that's very scary to me.
So now we still don't know the detail because he, of course, he slipped up is how we found out. He slipped up in one of the interviews with Colin. And we don't know for sure that he was Q the entire time, but we do know that he was Q. And he was posting on 8chan as Q. I want to know, and there's so many, I mean, it makes my head spin that like the Roger Stone connection, and then all of like having a direct connection to like Trump's script writers, speech writers, because you have to. Some of the things that he posted, you have to know what is going to be in Trump's speeches. So that means he was tapped into like the very inner circle with his social media manager. I forget the guy's name.
Dan Scavino, the
right.
psychopath.
Yeah, absolute psychopath. Like he was tapped in, and he's playing this game for all these people on 8chan.
And that's the thing, like he was doing it just like it seems like for fun. Like he just wanted to pull the strings.
Absolutely. He was the type of person that just wanted that notoriety.
Yeah, and it was like the last episode had a huge tonal shift. I feel like the whole time Jim Watkins was talking about how he's not political, he's not this, he's not that. And then in that last episode, he's like full on Trump. He's at the Capitol, like
people
siege.
Are shaking his hands.
Yeah,
people are shaking his hand. They're shaking both hands at once. They're shaking his hand. They know him. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it was just like like even Ron was like way different in that last episode than he was, and I think, I mean, I truly believe that they thought like when Trump lost, he was somehow going to win the election. Like there was somehow he was going to take it over, and so then they just got, I think, just like way too overconfident about it. And they were like, we're just going to come out and be who we are now. I mean, it seems like it backfired.
So Q was this person that all these, like the people, we'll use the people that were at the insurrection, the people that participated in it. These people, QAnon believers and followers of QAnon. They believed this thing that QAnon was, and believed that like you said, eventually that Trump was going to somehow win the election. They use QAnon as this kind of like cover, as something to continue on with beyond Trump. And now that QAnon is just this dude, Ron Watkins, there's really no connection other than he was able to post things that Trump said, you know what I mean? Or like somehow make it seem like he was a super, super insider, which I guess he was in certain respects. But now that he's gone, or like now that he's outed, now people can just like, I think, and they made an interesting point in the documentary. Everybody's beliefs now, as far as Trump goes, and really right wing people like that, everything's fracturing into a million different subcategories.
Yep.
So now it's like a whole nother game. It's a whole other game. It's a whole other thing that's happening right now within that. I don't know.
Well, I think they're like their
cults, whatever. We know cults.
I mean, yeah, we do know cults, and I think they're like their own version of what's happening now too. It's not even. It's like way to the right of Fox News.
Yeah. So
it's that OAN channel. It's Newsmax. They are living in their own reality at this point.
It's like what we said at the top of the show. It's like it's no longer I don't agree with your opinion. It's I don't agree with these facts, these numbers that are put in front of me. I don't believe where they're coming from. There's no like everything is objective.
Yeah. There's no facts.
No, everything is objective. It's no, I don't believe you because you got that information from CNN. I don't believe you because you got that information from Fox. That is not true. This is what's true. This is what we do.
I would not be surprised if they all thought that Joe Biden wasn't actually the president.
Yeah.
Or that he was dead and, someone's using him as a puppet. Like it's Hillary Clinton wearing a Joe Biden mask. Like nothing would surprise me at this point.
The only good thing that I can see coming from this is that when things like this happen in history, when there's a group and then there's a fraction version of that group, there's going to be infighting.
Yes. And
who and what message should be portrayed. The only thing that might come good of this is that maybe they lose some steam and lose some traction. I don't truly believe that, but I hope that maybe that would be the case with some of these people. It's just bizarre. And you saw like they had like a little like I forget what it was like a meeting with Jim Watkins, and that dude with the horns from the insurrection was there in costume.
Yeah.
Like these people are nuts. That wasn't just he didn't just dress up for that day to storm the Capitol with those horns on and that cape and his face painted. That's what he wears all the time.
That's his life.
That's his costume. That's what he wears all the time.
And he's the one who was complaining he couldn't get like vegan meals in prison.
Yeah.
Well, maybe don't dress up as a fucking Viking and storm the Capitol if you don't want to go to. Beggars can't be choosers. I'm sorry.
Pretty wild.
But yeah,
pretty wild.
It was
stuff.
That guy did a great job doing that documentary, but the last couple episodes really ramped it up.
Yeah.
Like turned it to 100.
Yeah. Yep.
It was well done. See, in my opinion, Bannon or Michael Flynn were the original Q, and I think that's why they posted and they were able to like post so many accurate things about Trump and stuff. And then when that shift happened that the Australian guy talked about, and there was like a different identifier, I think that's when Ron Watkins took over, saw how powerful it was getting, saw how much like traffic was going to his website, and then he just started manipulating people.
I think that's probably true. I think that's a good point. I think that's probably how they originally had all those really big insider information things, because Flynn, Bannon were on the in with all that stuff.
And that's when they got fired too.
Yeah, so
I think that's why they stopped, because they didn't have that information anymore. You know, they weren't part of the cabinet, so they couldn't post as Q with that info. They didn't have it anymore, and because if you look at everything that Ron Watkins posted, it's all gibberish. It's all puzzles.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I could post that.
Yeah. Do you think that he just ran with it, or do you think there was some kind of informal handoff after he took it over?
I don't know. I mean, I think if there was some type of handoff and this was a plan all along, I think that's giving, Trump people a little too much credit that they had this master plan all along.
Yeah.
It seems like they were flying by the seat of their pants this whole time.
I'm interested to know. I'm interested to know more about the time when Bannon or Michael Flynn or whoever it was in the Trump organization was Q, because I would like to know, like, if that was was that something he went to Trump and was like, hey, listen, I'm going to start this thing called Q, because Trump, they showed clips of Trump at rallies, like with people with Q on their shirts and holding up their fucking baby with the Q written on the shirt, like holding up at a Trump rally, like, look, it's Q, look. Fucking crazy. And like Trump kind of acknowledging it, right? But after a while, he just kind of associated with the letter Q with people that liked him. I think that's just what it was. I don't know if there was anything more behind that, but I'd like to know if there was.
I would too. I think it was just that,
Yeah.
They're like, hey, these people are for you. He's like, okay.
Right. He was just like, yep, pointing. He did. If you look at those clips of his rallies, like, we can laugh about it now, but like he just did a lot of pointing and thumbs up. Yeah, I like that. Point there. Yeah, I like that.
What can I say? They love me. All right.
Oh, that's great. So another great documentary from HBO. Fantastic.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait for the next one. There's going to be another one.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, this obviously I wasn't really too hot on the Allen v. Farrell one, just because I don't think you were on that episode when Adam and I talked about it. I just was like, by the end of it, I was burnt out. I was like, this is just slimy, disgusting shit. I'm done with it. Like, it was the same thing with the Epstein one on Netflix. I just couldn't.
Especially when there's no like resolution to it. Like, Woody Allen's still making movies. He's still out there. It's like this, poor girl's life was like ruined by someone she trusted, and that's it. And I mean, she's somehow strong enough to like live a normal-ish life now, but it's just like very sad. Yeah,
so I couldn't do it. I didn't even finish it. I saw what I needed to finish. I saw what I needed to see. It's disgusting. All right, Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yes.
So we saw it in two different ways. Ryan,
you
saw it. You saw it at home. Adam, Michael D, and us, and me, I mean, we all went to Providence Place Mall to see it at the IMAX. Let me just touch briefly on my experience going back to movie theaters. So I saw Sonic in movie theaters early last year before the pandemic started. Then I saw Tenet with you.
Yep.
And then, did we see something else?
That's the only movie I've seen.
I'm trying to think. Oh, and Adam and I saw Return of the King, Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And it was just the two of us in the IMAX theater. And so we went, and this was a more kind of full house. They separated the rows, like they did one row, and then they did a whole row with nobody in it. And then they did us, and they put like 5 or 6 seats in between each cluster of people. So it was like Adam, Mike, and me sitting in a pot of 3 together, and then there was like 5 or 6 seats in between us and the next people. So I felt pretty safe in the theater. But I'll tell you what, it felt good to be back at Providence Place Mall in the IMAX theater. That screen is so big.
It's such a cool way to watch a movie, especially like that, because that's a spectacle. That's a movie that deserves to be seen in that type of atmosphere.
Yes, I highly recommend it. So what'd you think?
I liked it a lot. I mean, I like the King Kong Godzilla movies, like just in general. I mean, I know we talked about Kong Skull Island. I had watched it for the first time like a couple months ago, and I mean, I loved the action scenes. I just thought like the plot itself was a little lacking for my taste, but I thought this one was really cool. You know, especially you're keeping like the evil, like the true evil are the humans in this situation.
Yeah.
So you're kind of keeping, even though King Kong and Godzilla are beating the shit out of each other, you know, they're still the true heroes in a sense. You know, they're still kind of these true protectors. I did kind of feel bad for Kong. He just kind of wanted to hang around,
Yeah.
you know, live his life with that little girl, but they drew him out and he had to fight Godzilla. But I thought the action scenes were amazing. It so I know I texted you about this, but I was talking to my dad about it, and he couldn't get into it because it was too unrealistic. Which the giant gorilla fighting the giant like lizard was too unrealistic for you. I'm like, why did you watch it? Like, you knew? Did you like? He made it seem like he going into it. He's like, all right, as long as this doesn't get too crazy, I'm gonna like it. Like, but
Yeah.
like clearly it's gonna be unrealistic. So like, I'll never pick these type of movies over like a solid human-based drama, I guess. Like, you
Yeah.
know, like something like that. But I did think it was like really well done. I like the action scenes, and I like the cast too. The cast was really good. Millie Bobby Brown, Damian Bashir, Alexander Skarsgård, Isaac Gonzalez, and who is
She's from the town, right? Yeah, is that who you're thinking of?
no the
Kyle
guy
Chandler?
Kyle Chandler, and then
I'm looking it up right now.
the guy from is it Get Out? Not Get Out. The guy from Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't know him.
TV show. I forgot his name, but he played like the conspiracy theorist guy.
Yes.
But he played a good role. I don't know. I liked it. It was like
Brian
it was a fun
Tyree
watch.
Henry.
Yes, he's like in a lot of stuff. But I don't know. It was a fun watch. Like, I think I probably would have, not that I didn't enjoy it, but I probably would have enjoyed the spectacle of it more watching it in IMAX.
Yeah.
Like, watching it at home, I don't think did it justice, especially for like, I think the way they filmed it was to watch it in at least in a movie theater, but I'm sure they prefer that I would watch it in IMAX. How was it in IMAX? I'm assuming it was just like,
it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. The IMAX theater at Providence Place is one of the, there's different like size, like IMAX isn't a size, it's a format of movie, but the Providence Place IMAX theater is one of the larger IMAX theaters you can go to. Because originally there weren't many movies done in IMAX. The only things that were there were like those educational films. Do you remember? There was like a movie about K2, and there was a like a space shuttle movie, and like the kind of stuff you'd see at like Kennedy Space Center, like that kind of stuff.
That's what it reminded me of. Yeah.
Right, and it was built to be this massive screen, and it still holds up. Like, Adam and I went to go see Lord of the Rings at an IMAX theater, but it was like half the size. So, and we sat kind of low, so we were absolutely just encapsulated by Kong and Godzilla. It was incredible. It was so cool to see it on there, and like the CGI in these movies are so good now that it's just like they're going around stomping around, destroying cities, causing trillions and trillions of dollars worth of damage, killing so many innocent people.
So many people died.
But you don't even care about that because of how cool Kong looks hanging from the skyscraper, throwing a crane at Godzilla. Like, it was so fucking cool. Everything. Yeah. I mean, Godzilla having the axe that's made of, it looked like scales from one of Godzilla's ancestors. You know what I mean? Like, he had that axe that was badass, and like him going to the what do they call this? It's the center of the earth, but what was the actual?
It's like the Hollow Earth.
Hollow Earth, right?
Yeah.
Which was just like really cool, and how it was like there's like this where the gravity is in the middle, and he can flip from one side to the other. I thought that was so cool.
So I mean, did they explain why that didn't affect Kong? Is he just too strong of a creature?
Yeah, I think
like
so.
They were inside that shuttle,
right?
Like the humans were, and then Alexander Skarsgård, his brother, died trying to access that.
Yeah, I think it's
Kong
just
seemed okay. But
yeah, I think it's just like creatures like Kong. I think it's just that's where, and they had that little like almost a throwaway line where Rebecca Hall was talking to Alexander Skarsgård, who's Nathan in the movie. Nathan, I think his name was. Anyway, they said that Skull Island was kind of like Hollow Earth come to the surface of the earth, how it kind of like sprung up in the middle of the ocean, like from Hollow Earth, like a little seed of it came up through. And I think that that's just kind of like how those, like, I don't know if, I mean, I would assume Godzilla would be all right down there, but I know that like that's where Kong's ancestors are from. That's where his throne is. That's why he's the king. He has inherited the throne. I thought that was a cool like little scene, like him going down to Hollow Earth and finding his throne. That was badass. Finding
with like the statue of him and everything.
Yeah, that was so cool. And then also the first time. So anyway, so it's broken down into 3 fights. This movie, and this is going to be spoilers all over the place for whoever cares, but for Godzilla vs Kong. But there's 3 fights. There's your one fight where they're bringing Kong over on the boat over to the access point for Hollow Earth in Antarctica. And let me tell you, one of the coolest like setup, like little like snapshot scenes is when Godzilla shows up and they release Kong, and Kong is squaring up Godzilla on the aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Which is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. Like what an amazing, like I almost want to get that. I'm sure it's a poster somewhere. I want to get that printed out and enlarged and like put on my wall. Like
that was a really cool.
That's just like such a cool set piece. Like that is exactly what this movie is for scenes like that.
Yeah, because if you're gonna, I mean, the reason I respected it too is like if you're gonna do Godzilla vs Kong, you gotta go all the way. You can't half-ass it.
Yeah,
and they didn't. I thought they went all the way with it, and then you're using the CGI. You have all access to all these like technical marvels that you can do. Give me some of those cool shots, and they did. They really didn't. They sprung for it. I thought, but yeah, that was an awesome scene.
So then, of course, after that, Godzilla. They end up letting Godzilla like lure him away. Also, will the military never learn that no matter what they shoot at Godzilla, he's not going to die? They blew him up with a nuclear bomb in the last movie, and he did not die. It made him stronger. So let's stop wasting our ammunition on Godzilla.
They should just start stabbing him with knives.
Godzilla is a territorial creature. So if he thinks that he has won the situation, he doesn't necessarily need to kill. He needs to know that he is the alpha. So he swims away. They kill the engines on the boat. They continue on their journey. They get to the access point of Hollow Earth. King Kong shoots his way down to Hollow Earth. And then, fast forward a little bit. Godzilla kills some creatures, eats the creature from inside his skull. Pretty appetizing, right? When he ripped that creature's head off and he just like sucks the green guts from inside his head.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then, of course, in the meantime, Godzilla, for some reason, is acting very erratic. He's going after Apex, the company, for whatever reason you don't know yet. Mm-hmm. And then another great scene when Kong picks up the axe and he activates like the throne, and Godzilla finds out he's below him. Godzilla just starts lighting into the earth, just absolutely blowing fire into it, and creates a hole through the earth to Kong.
To get to Hollow Earth. Yeah.
Incredible. That was absolutely
cool.
Incredible. And I thought that Godzilla might come down and fight him there, but instead we had King Kong go up and fight the last 2 scenes in Hong Kong.
That was in Hong Kong, yes.
Right. Which was very cool. It was the Godzilla versus Kong fight, which, spoiler alert, Godzilla does submit Kong.
He does. Yeah, kind of knocks him out.
Knocks him out, gets him on the ground. Me and Mike D were laughing. So when Kong gets up, after Godzilla takes him down, and then, of course, spoiler alert, Mechagodzilla shows up. When Godzilla puts his shoulder back into place, is there anything in particular that came into your head when he did
John
that?
Lynch?
John Lynch? I was talking to Mike. I go, oh, it's John. And Mike goes, it's out, everybody, it's out. So John pops his shoulder back in. Kong does the same thing. Oh, God. Pops his shoulder back in and goes to work on Mechagodzilla. And that last fight scene is just tremendous. They did exactly what they needed to do with this movie. I couldn't have asked for more, truly. Could not have asked for more. I wish that, as much as I love Millie Bobby Brown, their storyline really did nothing for me. And did nothing for the plot of the movie, really.
Yeah, I didn't. It definitely wasn't necessary.
I mean, you could have. The only thing that they did that was noteworthy for the story is they introduced Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
They introduced it. They couldn't figure it out at first, and then finally they were able to figure it out for whatever reason. didn't need that. I really didn't need any of that.
No, even like and they didn't show Kyle Chandler's character enough to warrant like, Millie Bobby Brown being like his daughter in peril.
Yeah, right.
So even if they tried to go for that slant to it, it didn't work. I mean, it didn't take away from the movie, but it also didn't.
I think they
really
had to. I think they had to write her in just because I think it would have been weird to drop her, like they dropped Elizabeth Olsen and, who was Elizabeth Olsen and the other guy that was in who's also Quicksilver in the Marvel movies.
Yes.
From the Godzilla movie with Bryan Cranston. Why can't I think of his name? Anyway, I think they would find it weird. Like, they didn't continue those characters into the next movie, and they started Millie Bobby Brown and Godzilla King of the Monsters, and so they figured, like, it would be weird to also drop off more human characters. Let's keep some people going.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that they just kept those. And, like, they really, and then they did that thing where they stuttered Mechagodzilla. They poured coffee on the computer console, which was a very strange way to write that into the movie. Like, they didn't stop it, but it, like, stuttered for a moment. Okay. Anyway, but I think that was pretty badass that King Ghidorah was actually controlling, his consciousness was controlling Mechagodzilla. That's pretty badass.
Yep, that was a cool nod.
It's just, I don't know. It just is exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it was just really enjoyable, and I kind of like want to see it in the theater. I enjoyed watching it at home, but I do think I would have like gotten a little more out of it watching it in the theater too.
I'm going to watch it at home over the next few days. One of these days I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to see how much of a difference. I mean, obviously it's going to be a difference, but I'm going to see how much of it takes away. Whereas, like, of course, I think I would have the better experience in the theater, but I think this movie would play at home as well.
It did. You enjoyed it. It was enjoyable.
Yeah. Great. What would you give it if you were given thumbs? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs medium rare, like we used to do.
I'm going thumbs up.
I'm going full thumbs up. High noon.
Yeah, 100%.
I really liked it. I think now I don't know if there's any. Are there any other Godzilla movies in production or that they're talking about? I know they have to greenlight another one after the success of this one.
Yeah, not that I know of,
people
but
are loving it.
I mean, it's got to be now, just because of like how big this and how like positively this hit.
Yeah. I would love. And they kind of like shot their load in the last one, King of the Monsters, with all the other like monsters that they had show up. But of course, they could write more.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, Godzilla vs Kong, the last movie. Every MonsterVerse movie. There's no announcements for new movies, but
I bet it's coming.
They're saying that Godzilla vs Kong, Titan War prequel should be the next movie. I think that's an interesting take, having like the ancestors of Godzilla and Kong fight, like back when the Earth was like prehistoric. Then. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
When more of these giant monsters roam the Earth, what would happen? Like, where would we? I would have to live in the middle of nowhere if this was real.
Yeah.
Because how do you live in a city that's even decent sized? Like, imagine.
Yeah, I mean you can't. There's no escaping it.
I think you'd be all right up where you are. I think I might be semi-okay where I am. But, like, imagine, like, you couldn't live in New York. You couldn't live in Hong Kong. You couldn't live in Singapore.
You would die a horrible death.
No, you would just die. You couldn't live. You'd have to live in Montana. You'd have to go.
Yeah.
You'd have to go buy a ranch. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So. Cool. All right. Do you have anything else you wanna touch on before we depart?
I think that hits everything.
Next week, 5 movie characters you want to be. Hit us up if you want. If not, just listen to the next episode. Adam will be back, I think.
I believe so.
Not that he wasn't here. You can see that he's in here. He just didn't want to say anything. He's very quiet.
That new shampoo, he looks great.
That new shampoo looks great. Very stoic. Very, very stoic. So that's it. Ryan, always a pleasure.
Hey, Matt, lovely seeing you. Kind of seeing you and
kind
talking
of seeing
to
me. Yeah, good to see you. All right. That's it. Average Nobodies podcast number 116. Find us on averagenobodies.com, at Average Nobodies on Twitter, youtube.com/TheAverageNobodies. Talk to you next week.
Farewell.